What's that?
Countdown starts.
I'm ready when you are ready. I got 6 o'clock, so.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. So we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call. Everybody is here except Mark and Randy. Additions to the agenda. We have one under the consent agenda that we received this afternoon.
Can I just?
Yeah.
The two additions are junior high girls basketball. That season will begin before you guys come together again, and so it's the two junior high girls basketball coaches are the additions to the consent agenda.
Looking for a motion to approve.
I'm going to approve the agenda.
We have a motion from Cheryl.
Second.
And a second from Lou. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signified by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, and carried. Next, we'll go to public comment. Anybody here for public comment? All right, so the consent agenda, we have the meetings we received from the October 9th regular board meeting and October 10th, the board work session. So I think everybody's had a chance to go over them. And then we also have the financial part, the September and October bills, as well as the treasurer's report. Cheryl, I'm going to go through that.
Everything was pretty normal. Nothing really stood out. The bill for Arvig for the new fiber optic line
It's done.
is done,
Is done. Yes.
and the phones are working?
Phones are back to being able to call the high school number, and the new extensions are working. So yes, we are getting back to telephone normalcy.
And I noticed some bills for some of the makerspace supplies, and I got to look at the elementary school makerspace today, and it's coming along nicely. Very impressive, very impressive. Other than that, everything was pretty much normal.
Okay. All right, and then the two personnel items, we have the resignation.
Yep, Maggie Gilmore is the works in pause, and she has put in her letter of resignation. Matt is working on how he's going to be covering that, and he'll take care of that with some reorganization. He is going to be looking for somebody to fill that position, but right now he's going to be reorganizing existing employees. And then the other personnel items are those two junior high girls basketball coaches, Brad Pence and Brad Skuglin.
Any other questions?
I make a motion we accept the consent.
I have a motion from Rick
I'll second.
and a second from Bruce. All in favor signified by aye.
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 Can I have a quick question in
Yes.
there? Because I think I'll goes in the middle there. So we connected the two buildings. So we are done with having to fight with connection of the two buildings. Isn't that our big deal, you said?
Correct.
So is it working?
Yeah.
And you can see a difference.
Yeah, I mean,
Fantastic.
well, hold on. I just got to preface it. I've only been here since July, so I don't know the life previous to that. And when I did get here, the phone system was in process, so I can tell you it's working a lot better than it was in July. The other thing that is a couple of different features that are new is the paging, particularly in this building. To page the entire building, you used to have to do one page for the middle school, one for the high school, and now it's set up that there's one page number that you can do the entire building. So it's relatively small things that you wouldn't really think are that big of a deal, but when you're trying to do a lockdown drill or something like that, it's really convenient to just have to page one number versus do one announcement on one and then hang up and do the next one. So
But this is the bill for Arvig was $40,000 or something?
45.
Okay, so we also connected for all the computer stuff.
yep, there's a fiber line now running between both buildings.
yeah,
Yep,
perfect.
and that's the other piece that Arvig did. So it was the phone system, and then it was also the fiber line between the two buildings.
Perfect.
I don't remember.
We need to take a vote on that consent?
All right, so we'll take a vote. All in favor signified by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. All right, next we will go through the communication items. So we'll first hear from Superintendent.
I have just a few items. First of all, the CMC conference. I know Max was here at the last meeting, talked about that. The Royalton Board of Education did approve membership in the CMC. So next year, we will be at 8 schools for the CMC. Piers is leaving, and Royalton will be replacing them. So that is done. I wanted to talk briefly about the makerspace as well. They are progressing nicely. We are still working on some processes and things that we need to finalize in order as far as staff development and training and a bunch of those things, but they're moving nicely, and it's exciting to see what possibilities are going to be here. I would actually extend an invitation when the meeting's over, if anybody wants to go check out what we're doing in the middle school media center here, I'd be more than happy to go down there with you. CNA program, we actually have an organizational meeting set up for next week. So Eden Valley Watkins and ACGC and us will get together. We're going to meet in this building. I'm hoping that maybe the flooring is done. We can actually meet in the space where the program is going to be hosted. So that's proceeding nicely. Had an opportunity to meet with the instructor and a supervisor from Ridgewater to kind of talk about logistics and how things will work. So they're excited about the space. They're excited about storage, things that I guess they just don't have in other sites that they are doing this class. So I think they're very happy with what we're putting together for them. YST grant, this is the youth internship grant. I just want to touch base again. It's a continual work in progress. We had a meeting actually this week, or I had a meeting this week with BBE and New London Spicer and representatives from St. Cloud State. And so this youth internship grant, we are finalizing the grant. We're actually going to pair with St. Cloud State. Excuse me, which is exciting to me because I don't know how many applications are actually going to have a post-secondary institution as a partner on it. I think that's something that will look very favorable for that application. But the hope here is to secure a $100,000 grant to be able to start promoting and expanding youth internship possibilities. And then the last thing I just want to make the board aware of, this is a work in progress. We're just getting started on this. I talked about a little bit when we were doing bus contract negotiations. But one of the things I think is important is we need to explore Wi-Fi on our school buses. I think there's a couple of ways you can look at it, whether you're talking route buses, activity buses. I think there's a lot of conversation that can be had about how we would actually go about doing this. But first of all, I think what we need to do is we actually need to get a demo and get kids on a vehicle with a full bus to actually see what kind of usage and user satisfaction. I mean, if you put 40 kids on a bus and nobody can actually do anything with the Wi-Fi, let's not go down the road of dealing with putting Wi-Fi on a bus. So Tech Check is going to be out, and Paynesville Motor and Transfer is also going to be part of this, and we're going to get together hopefully next week to look at doing some demoing of a couple of units on some vehicles and stuff. After we do that, then I think we can get into the nitty-gritty about how we would want to approach this. Are we going to look at it as a school bus route philosophy? Are we going to use it for our extra trips when kids are getting back late? How do we want to actually roll that out, I think, is the second question. And then the third piece is, what is our sustainability plan and how do we fund it? And so we're just getting started. If the technology works like everyone says it should, we'll have some interesting conversation on how we can proceed forward with it. So that's what I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, on the last one, with the Wi-Fi, are we asking the kids about it?
Well, I get a little nervous.
That's going to be your users, and
Yep.
maybe even if it was assorted students from here, it would just be a shame to go down a road and then find out there's something that they were looking for
Yep.
different. And
I just get a little nervous about asking before we know we can deliver.
I gotcha.
And so I want to know that we can deliver,
But
and
that'll
then,
be part of it.
and then we
Find
can
out what
start
kids-
talking about what it is are we looking for and
Because I
stuff
think
like
the
that.
students will tell us if it looks like it will work or not.
I think they'll tell us, but I also think if we get a demo and a sample out there, we will actually have live data that will actually tell us probably more even than conversations will tell us. So, any other questions for me?
All right, thank you. Next, we'll have the report from elementary principal David Orline.
Good evening. Okay. Well, really, just want to touch on a couple things. At the elementary, we have really three big things that we're dealing with right now in this fall. And the first one is the playground, then the makerspace area, along with creating a vision for our media center, and then PBIS. And so we have a couple of staff members from our PBIS committee that will be talking in a few minutes. So with the playground, long process. All the equipment is installed. The concrete pad with the rubberized surface on it will be done this spring, but all the equipment is going to be usable all winter long. We haven't had to shut the playground down very much to get that finished. So the plan is we have a staff get together on Friday at 3 o'clock, and so we're hoping to spend 2 hours working on the playground on Friday afternoon. So if you're interested in joining us, you can heckle us from the street if you want. But so we want to get a lot done. The goal is, if you've seen that big pile of mulch, we want to get that out of there before we get some hard freezes, and we should be able to, we won't have a problem doing that. We're hoping to get a lot of it done on Friday, and then we'll just continue to work on that over the next couple of weeks. But it looks really cool, and I was out there Monday morning, and there were kids all over the new stuff and having fun, and so it was really cool. The makerspace area is also coming along, and it kind of mirrors what the middle school media center will look like. There'll be a few different items in there. We're also looking at how we want to, what our vision is going to be for the media center. We have an extremely large space there, and we would really like to create a collaboration area where we could have the entire fourth grade class, for example, in there working on a project, or using that as a hub. And we see it being used in so many cool ways, and so we're kind of working on that vision right now, and I'm working with Mr. Campbell on that too. And the other thing about that is Matt Dickhausen spent hours and hours and hours setting up that makerspace on Thursday and Friday, so I really appreciate all that he did for that. Third grade has their annual wax museum on Friday, and that every year has grown into a bigger event. And so if you're interested in that, it starts at 8:30, and it'll be in the main gym. It's really a fun activity that they do. From the high school side, we did a tailgating event for homecoming, and we had the credit union sponsored it and provided all the workers and the food and everything, and we did a free will donation, and the proceeds were given to the makerspace, and so we raised about $400 from that, and then the credit union donated $250 on top of that. So really cool event. The weather wasn't very good. It was cold and it was rainy, but we already have been throwing around some ideas for next year, making it more of a family activity with beanbag games, and see if we can add some other activities for kids. So we're really looking forward to that. Any questions for me? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody go to any committee meetings? Committee reports? Okay. Then we'll go down to old business, the district goals.
And I have nothing new from the last meeting on the district goals. Everything that's on there is the same as the last time we met, first meeting in October.
Okay. Then we'll move down to new business. A, the combining the polling places.
This is a requirement now that basically the state is requiring if a school district is running an election that is not on a statewide election date, we are required to have one combined polling place. The combined polling place that we've identified is the Paynesville Area Center. They are aware of this, they know that, and they're also aware of what their role and responsibility would be. So we need to have this adopted before December 31st. It would be my recommendation to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion from Bruce and a second from Cheryl.
And we do need a
resolution.
roll call. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Linda? Yep.
All right, Rick,
Aye.
Heidi,
Aye.
Lou,
Aye.
Bruce,
Aye.
Cheryl.
Aye.
All right, carried. Next, we'll move down to B, the flooring bids for classrooms 103 and 105.
So 103 is going to be the CNA program. 105 eventually will be a boardroom / conference room. That is, I believe most of you have seen the space. The thing that's sandwiched in the middle is 104. It's going to be a production studio. Right now the flooring is out. Asbestos was abated over MEA break. Now it's just a matter of getting flooring put in there. We had 2 bids. My recommendation is to accept the Hennon flooring bid at $9,619. We do have money from the CNA grant that will cover a portion of that, roughly $3,000. Half of the flooring for the one classroom will be covered out of that grant. The remaining cost we would use from the sale of the building that we currently have, that budget surplus in our budget.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve the flooring bid?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion from Rick and a second from Bruce. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signified by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. Next, the policy second readings and approval.
So we have 4 policies that are up for approval. At the first meeting in October, we did first reading. Policy 102, 103, 206, and 214. These are all mandatory policies that we need to have. What I would classify these policy changes would be technical in nature. As the legislature went through and changed some definitions from peoples to citizens and citizens to peoples, it's technical things like that that have been changed in these policies. Since our first meeting, these policies have been posted, and we have not had any inquiries or any questions regarding the policies, so it would be my recommendation to approve these. Once they're approved, then they would go on to Matt Dickhausen, and he would update the policies on our website.
I'll make a motion that we approve all 4 of these policies.
I'll second.
All right, so I have a motion by Bruce and a second from Cheryl. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signified by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. Next, we have some seniority lists. The first one, food service.
This is going to be the same spiel for all of these lists. The seniority list or the date of hire list, all of them have been posted according to whatever the date is in the master agreement. None of the lists did we receive any challenges or questions on. So it would be my recommendation as we move through these 4 lists. Yes, I would like them approved separately. I know it's a very similar topic, but I would appreciate if we have 4 motions and seconds in order to do this. Like I say, they all have been posted. There haven't been any questions or challenges to any of the lists.
I'll make a motion we approve the seniority list for food service.
I have a motion from Bruce.
Second.
And a second from Rick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signified by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Next, we have the seniority list for the maintenance and custodial.
I move that we approve that.
I'll second.
I have a motion from Lou and a second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signified by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Next, the seniority list for teachers.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Lou
I'll second.
and a second from Bruce. Any other further discussion?
I just had a question. On the seniority list, administrators were listed on the bottom, but there were some who we consider administrators who weren't on there. Is there a reason why Donnie, Max, Matt aren't on there?
Donnie, Max, and Matt aren't on there because they do not meet the definition that is in the statute for teacher.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Yep, so it has to be, they have to meet the definition of teacher. So for instance, a building principal would be on there because they do meet the definition of a teacher according to the state.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor signified by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. Next, the date of service list for paraprofessionals.
I move we accept that.
I'll
list as
second.
written.
Okay, a motion from Cheryl and a second from Bruce. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signified by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. All right, next we have the PBIS update. Welcome.
We had a huge PowerPoint, really fancy, all set up, but apparently the bulb is out, so we'll have to pass on that. Okay, so I've always been touching a little bit on what we're doing with the PBIS and the training and kind of little updates on where we are, but I thought it would be good to have a few of our staff members who are on the front lines and part of the PBIS team. There's 8 of us altogether, and we went to training in Duluth in August, and we have another training coming up in a couple weeks in St. Cloud, and so we just want to give you a little bit of an update on where we are and where we are with our communication with parents. For conferences, we had an information sheet that that teachers went over with all of our parents, kind of giving them an introduction on to what we're doing and just letting them know that it's a process, and we'll keep them up to date and involved, and if they want to be involved.
Can you just tell us what PB, just so what
Yep.
each letter stands for?
Okay, so we'll just go through that whole, kind of the whole sheet, the information sheet, and then we'll put in whatever you guys want to put in. Okay. So we have Robin Spaeth and Marie Grothy here, and they are just part of a team that has been working really hard at creating this framework. So PBIS is Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support, and it's really it's an approach to create expectations and behavioral expectations that will help academically, socially, things like that. And so we are, as a school district, creating this to fit our needs and working. We're not inventing the wheel. We're working with other districts and taking ideas and working it that way. So, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, I guess I can start with one thing that I walked away with from our training up in Duluth was that children really need to be taught specific actions and awareness so that they do not get into trouble. So to help them, behave the way that we want them to, a lot of it is because they haven't necessarily been taught that this is the way we do it. And I think that going to this training allowed us to see this is how positively you can talk about using the library, using the cafeteria, the playground, the hallways, being very mindful of the structure and the routine at school so that everyone's doing the expectation and they want to do it. And there's lots of pieces of the training that we don't really know yet, but from what I walked away with, I saw that it's a teaching to the behavior. What behavior do you want? The other thing that I walked away with was that I was really ready to start implementing some things when school started because I thought it was very valuable. So that brought up the next step that we can talk about, of just a baby step of the 3, we called it the big 3, be mindful, be respectful, and be connected. And we started with just little steps with our own classrooms and invited the staff to buy into at least that much of it without knowing all the things that we'd been trained on. So I do see my colleagues using those words and using that when they are reprimanding or reminding or redirecting children to be mindful, be responsible, be connected. And I do hear even in my students, I'll say, remember, be mindful, I know, be respectful, be connected. So a little bit of the rote memory is coming through in that aspect as well.
Another thing in connection with PBIS is creating a community, a place where everyone feels included. And it's not to say that we didn't have that in the past at Paynesville. We have a wonderful community, but reaching out to those students who may be having these behaviors and making sure they're understanding the expectations of what we expect at school and making sure that they're included in a positive manner into our community, into our classroom community, grade level community, elementary school community. The best way I can describe it is, not everybody eats dinner the same way. Therefore, we need to teach the expectations of how would you eat in the cafeteria. You need to make sure that you have X, Y, and Z being done so that we can have a positive experience in the cafeteria. And I kind of equate it.
That would be our volleyball program.
Appropriateness in the hallway. No, we walk and we're quiet. No. But just even, when you go to a different person's house, everybody has different expectations. You need to explain them prior to expecting students to quote unquote know that. Sometimes we say, well, they should just know that. Not all students really do. So, and it's not at really any fault of their own. They've never been taught, or they need a reminder like we all do. So just creating that community supported by positive learning.
So really it comes down to, as a team when we were in Duluth, we created the 3 areas: be mindful, be respectful, be connected. And all of our expectations and rules in each individual classroom, playground, cafeteria, we want to expand this to the buses, is that we're creating those expectations based on those 3 things. And you can always, whatever your rule is, whatever your expectation is, can always come back to mindful, respectful, and connected. And so we look at it, if we teach math and we teach reading and we teach spelling, but when somebody is having a difficult time behaving, we reprimand and we say, don't do that. We want to create the environment where we're teaching students how to behave. We can't expect every student to come into kindergarten knowing how to read. We can't expect every student coming into school to know how to act in an environment that is new to them, or that maybe, they don't have that opportunity outside of school. So really, it's really just looking at behavior and expectations as another part of our curriculum and teaching specific expectations in all these different areas and relating them to those 3 things. It is a long process. From from a outsider standpoint, probably doesn't look like we've done much, but our group is working really hard to create this framework, and we'll continue to keep everybody updated, and we want it to be something that our school is really proud of. Do you have any questions for these two? Not for me?
I would add also the part I'm really liking is that it's a common language right now for our whole faculty, that we're all on board with that common language, because we've come in at different points, we've been hired different years, and this is a time of unity that we have the same language.
Are all of the students responding well to this?
We really haven't gotten to the point where it's ingrained, you know, we're just kind of slowly
But from a
introducing
starting
it.
point.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we are very fortunate, and our elementary students really have high expectations of themselves, and they do a great job, and we have great families. But so it's not that we're trying to make a 180-degree switch in something. We just want to refine and you know, instill in those behaviors and those expectations in everybody. But, you know, overall, I think, yeah, it's been a real positive.
We're actually planning on teaching the staff how to implement our first lesson plan, which we're concentrating in on the cafeteria as a major place to have our first lesson plan that we've created in the near future, just because there's so much that goes on in the cafeteria. If you'd like to see, come to the school between the hours of 11:15 and 1:15, and you will witness some miraculous things that are done by our staff and our students. But in the very near future, we're planning on teaching the staff how to teach the lesson, and then getting input from them as well, because it's really important for this to be, again, a community event thing. Yeah. So having their input so that they can understand that, and also our paraprofessionals as well, because they're some of the very core players when we're in the hallway, when the students are in the cafeteria, on the playground, and places like that. And we want to make sure that their voices are validated as well, equally to everybody else's.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
By the way, PBIZ, shorten it up a little bit. PBIZ. A lot easier to say.
All right, we'll move down to I, the business management options.
I do not have anything new. I just have information for the board. I did get confirmation actually this afternoon that BBE did have a board meeting last evening, and this conversation was one of the conversations they had. They are very much on board, and they are really just waiting to see if they have a partner in Paynesville. The information that I relayed to them was that we were going to touch the same topic tonight, and then at the November meeting, we would actually be making a decision as far as what direction we're going to go. I do know the actual costs would be for the remainder, the second half of this year. The cost would be $19,483. For 1920, the cost would be $49,648. And for 2021, the cost would be $50,591. To give you an estimate, I think the ballpark for us to do 19 or 20 or 2021 in a different model, I think at the minimum is going to be somewhere in that $65,000 to $67,000 is a ballpark. And of course, that would depend on what that looks like. That's what it could be. If we went our own direction with a business manager, it could be more than that. But that's a ballpark for you. So I shared with them that we aren't going to make a decision tonight. But I would just at least relay the information that they are interested, they are certainly willing, and they're really just going to be waiting to hear if Paynesville is an interested partner. What you will see in November is I'm in a position right now where I probably will be recommending this option, and when that happens, you would actually have some form of an agreement, a letter of agreement that the board would sign off on, that then would be able to move forward with. And most likely you'll see that at the November board meeting. Questions about that?
Now, if we do this with sharing a business manager, then Joan's position would not be.
Correct. Her position in its current state as it is right now would be filled with a shared business manager role and not filled in the existing. Yes, exactly. I know there's been questions. I know there's been a couple school employees have been emailed questions. Did you resign or what's happening? I don't happen to read the local paper, so I'm not sure what was in there with the last meeting. But I just want to be clear that no one's resigning. We have a retirement at the end of February, and so we're planning for that retirement. But nobody in the district office is going to be laid off or anything like that due to any sort of rearrangement that we're talking about. If that's the word on the street, it's not credible. So let's not have that conversation.
Fake news.
Fake news, sure.
Yes.
Well, I certainly, the more I think about this, the more I happen to think it's a very good idea. I like the idea. I think it's cost effective for us. I believe there's going to be advantages having one person looking at two different systems, and it will be something really good for us. And I also really like the idea that we're planning for it now. We're not waiting for Joan to be gone and then trying to figure it out. So all in all, I think it's working out just how I had hoped, and it sounds like everything's working out on their end, so ours becomes a little more simple.
Sure.
I have a question.
Sure.
And it wouldn't necessarily fall under this person's responsibility. Do we do any shared purchasing with other schools, or have we thought about doing anything like that? Or could this lead into something where we might be able to find other cost savings?
I think it certainly can lead into other things. I think when you start talking about sharing business management services, I think shared payroll, shared accounts payable, all of that stuff is, to me, very reasonable. In the past, there's been some sharing with other districts in food service. I know that we had agreements or shared roles with Albany and Ricori at times. So there has been a history of it. The other thing is, we are use, for instance, like Resource Training and Solution. That's a service cooperative that does a formal joint purchasing program that we regularly participate in as well. And so, yes, this model in my mind is not unique. It's just what's unique about it is being able to get multiple entities that really kind of have the same idea of how something could work, because that's really the big speed bump here. If we have one definition of what a shared position looks like and they have a different one, it's a setup for heartbreak or for heartburn, and you don't want to have that. And that's the nice thing about this. I really think both districts are kind of looking at it through the same lens, that they have a very common idea of what shared business management services would look like.
All right, next we'll move down to the student representative on the Board of Education.
So again, this is nothing that would be an action item, and I just want to bring it to the board's attention. It's something that I have an interest in. I would like to have a student representative on the board. I actually have talked with the student council advisors at the high school about this. They have a couple people that are interested. I think both of them would be exceptional. From my perspective, I think a student member on the board can do a couple of things. I think they provide invaluable insight. And I know at times when a student starts on a board, they are nervous. They don't want to speak on camera, and they are really apprehensive about sharing their opinion. But I can tell you from experience, what they're nervous about saying, some of the stuff that they bring to the conversation is the most insightful pieces that as adults we simply don't even think of. So I really think it would be something that would be of value. I think the other thing that's nice about it is there are some incentive for students in Minnesota. If you're a member of MSBA, which we are, there's some incentive for student reps on boards. They can qualify for scholarships. They can get some other things as well. So I think, one, we kind of owe it on behalf of our student body. I mean, we are a board-run entity. I think for us not to have a student voice on the board, to me, is something I think we're missing. And so it's something that I would like to see happen. I know I always get the question about, what about data privacy? And let's be clear, about 98% of everything that the board touches is public information. So, yep, there's 2% of the information that I would have to put safeguards in to make sure that that student rep wouldn't necessarily have access to. They would not be a voting member. They are simply here to provide perspective. They're here to provide a voice. But in the end, it doesn't mean we have an 8-person Board of Education. We still have a 7-person Board of Education. So again, this is just informational, food for thought. I'm going to be coming back in November, and I would like to have a little bit more conversation about this and see if the board would be okay with it. I think it's something we should do, but we wouldn't start anything until the new year, until January. That's when we would have a student rep on the board. So, do you have questions about it? Are there any things that raise concern?
Great idea. I have attended numerous meetings at the school board conference where schools have done that, and I could not come up with anybody that had anything negative about it, but it did what you were talking about. Sometimes I think we can make a decision, we struggle a little bit, and all we need to do is have a little idea of what the students are thinking, and we don't have a clue, honestly. I think it's a great idea.
And to start with, if this is something that the board would be comfortable with, to start with, I would be meeting with the student reps before. I would like to have there be 2 reps. Only one would attend a meeting, so there would still just be 8 chairs. I think we can fit in our chair in there. We'll get littler chairs if we need to. But we would have only one attend, but I like having 2 reps because students are busy. And so it's nice to be able to have 2 people so they can kind of work with their schedules, and maybe someone can't make one, but the other one can. To start with, I would meet with them prior to the board meetings and go over the agenda, see if they have any questions, if there's anything they want to talk about or anything. But realistically, my experience is after I meet with them about 3 times, they don't want to meet with me anymore. They got the gig, they know what they're doing, and they're off and running. And I would suspect that'll be the same thing here. They will simply be off and running with it. So think about it. It'll come back in November, and if the board is okay, then I would move forward with January getting a student rep on the board.
My only thought, Matt, would be that it would have to be kind of a system or rotation, whatever, that would keep somebody on long enough that they would mature with the board. If you started somebody in January and it was a senior, they would only be here for 5 months and then be gone. So I'd encourage thinking, how do we make sure that it's somebody that's here long enough that they're going to feel, the longer they're here, the more comfortable they'll feel.
Yeah, and I do think it needs to be a junior or senior. I really do. I think what would be really great is if we have 2 people and we have a junior and a senior this year. Next year, the junior becomes a senior and we find a new junior. And so we kind of have one person, once we get this up and running, you'll have somebody who will be around for 2 years, type of a deal. I think if you go younger than that, I think
I would go younger, but I'm thinking juniors, so that somebody's here at least for overlapping a year.
Yep. And you would be surprised, I know that there are times even in the summer, and summer's busy and stuff, but in the past, we've had student reps that even in the summer, when it's a Tuesday in June, they are here, and they're, doing their thing, so yeah. Any other questions?
How do you choose the student reps?
Well, I would, number one, I would stay out of that because it's not my role to be choosing board members. I would view this the same way. It's not my role to choose who the student reps are. That's why I went to the student council. I think that's a good place to go. I think it's logical, and I think really then it's up to student council advisors to work with student council about that and how they go about selecting somebody, or if there's a election or an application. I'm indifferent, but just like I don't go out and advocate for new board members, it's not appropriate in my role. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to go in and recruit a student member either. I think that's something that another entity or another group needs to be responsible for.
I like the idea of putting something on them, like an application process that makes it costs something, not financially, but they're going to have to put some time.
They have some time invested.
Trying to get on, and then
Yep.
not just say, well, I'll do it.
Right. Sure.
And I think using the student council, the students have already, voted on who they, feel are good leaders. And so I think, that says a lot to be a part of this board. So yes, I agree. I think it's a great idea, and I think it just helps give our students a voice.
Yep.
And I think the more we give them a voice, the more we can create a stronger community here. So,
Agreed. You'll hear more in November.
all right. Thank you.
Luckily, Lou's here.
And Lou?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion from Lou
Second.
and a second from Cheryl. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signified by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And carried. Meeting is adjourned.